Well, it was fun while it lasted, but President Trump's putting to bed his favorite way to drive libs crazy.
The Trump Organization is selling hats that say Trump 2028.
Yeah.
Are you seriously considering a third term?
It's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat. But this is not something I'm looking to do. I think we're going to have 4 years, and I think 4 years is plenty of time to do something really spectacular.
But when one media hoax dies, another one gets its wings. The press is twisting President Trump's "I don't know" comment to make it seem like he's unsure about upholding the Constitution, conveniently leaving out the full context of what he said in this NBC interview. Listen.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know.
as
It might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials.
Don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Well, he's not a lawyer, Judge Jeanine, and that's why we elected him president.
Okay, a couple of thoughts. She says that the Fifth Amendment requires it. So, of course, I pull out, I carry this in my purse all the time. I don't know why. I think someday I'll be arrested or something. I'll take it out. Fifth Amendment is about a grand jury. It's about double jeopardy. It's about a person not being compelled to be a witness against himself. And you cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process. It says nothing about illegal. So cut the crap, Kristen Welker. You're a good person, but you're wrong on this. That's number one. Now, the question as to whether or not a third term, we all know he made it very clear. He said, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do it. End of this story. But they can't. They're all about imagination, fascination. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But then on this whole thing of Abrego Garcia, I went back and I read the Supreme Court decision again. They are interpreting it when she said, isn't he entitled to due process? Abrego Garcia was entitled, according to the Supreme Court, to be facilitated in his return only because there was a withholding order and he shouldn't have been deported because of the withholding order. Okay, because he's MS-13 and they'll kill him with the other gang. So let's be clear about this. The Supreme Court never said in a Abrego Garcia case that due process is required for illegals. Can they get an immigration hearing? Probably, but that doesn't mean they go to court, and we can't possibly do it. 20 million. We can't even get through trials in this country, and speedy trial is a reason a lot of defendants get out of jail because we can't even give the citizens trials.
The "I don't know" hoax, Greg, do you think this has legs?
No, it doesn't. Trump is the cat, and the media is just a ball of yarn. And it's refreshing to see because for the longest time, we were the ball of yarn, and the media was always poking and tugging and unraveling us for decades. Trump represents us. Now our guys flip the script, and you get no sympathy from me. He likes playing with them. For example, it's very clever about running again. He doesn't have to run for a third term. Somebody else runs for a third term with him as VP. President resigns. He's president. Oh. Then the fourth term.
Yeah, Harold.
Then the fourth term happens again. This time, Vance goes, no, I'm going to stay. If I'm elected, I'm going to stay. They get in and he goes, oh, I have a heart ailment. Resigns. Trump again. That's 4 terms. 4 terms. He triggers these guys more than the NRA. I feel like the media is like a junkie who doesn't know they've hit rock bottom yet. And Trump is just showing them every day. So maybe they can start over. He's basically pulling a one-man intervention saying, you guys, nobody trusts you. Nobody likes you. Why don't you give it up? Start over. Move to a new town.
Speaking of third terms, Dana, and that is an interesting idea, Greg. I think you should run that up the flagpole.
I will.
I think he just did.
He was asked about his successor. Watch.
I think we have tremendous people. I think we have a tremendous group of people. We talked about a number of them. You look at Marco, you look at J.D. Vance, who's fantastic. You look at, I could name 10, 15, 20 people right now just sitting here. No, I think we have a tremendous party.
So he name-checked Marco and JD.
So I thought this was very, very interesting because, one, I think it's good for him to put to bed the idea of the third term and just like let it go. And if the media continues to run with it, you can make fun of them. But I think that is settled. The fact that he said there could be 15 to 20 people who run, that was his first response. So you have an open primary on both sides. Imagine the stages for these debates, right? 15 to 20 people on both sides. But then in a follow-up, he says J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio. So that gives you a little palace intrigue. Now, we've just finished the first 100 days. Usually you don't start talking about the next presidential election until midnight on the night of the midterm election in 2026. But because of the situation that we're in, the Democrats have absolutely no one. And Trump is saying, I'm not going to handpick a successor, at least not at this point. But that makes him more powerful because then he'll be able to say, let me look around, let me see who I like, who I don't like, and maybe he will and maybe he won't. And that will be the intrigue and drive a lot of media speculation.
I love palace intrigue. What about you, Harold Ford Jr.?
I like palace intrigue, too. I'd take just a couple of things, Judge. I think Christine Welker, I think what she was saying regarding the due process, she was saying to Secretary Rubio, who did say that he believed that citizens and non-citizens were deserving of due process. And I think you could be right, but I do think the case down in Texas where you had the Trump, we know that the Trump appointed judge who said the Alien Enemies Act could not be used to deport these people without hearings. What the court is ultimately going to decide is what you said earlier, Jesse, which I don't fully agree with, but what you said, who has due process rights? Do citizens have it more than non-citizens? That's what the court will have to decide. Couple things. I'm glad the president was not shy about talking about a third term, the hats and all that kind of stuff, and that's him. He wants to continue to be relevant. If I were him, if you could do those things, you have that kind of authority to do it, because after 2 years in the second term, you generally are a lame duck, maybe even after a year. This president certainly won't be, because he's made it clear he's gonna involve himself on who is his successor. What I was most interested in the Welker interview was something a little different. He said something there about tariffs and our economy. And he said, maybe kids today have too many toys and too many dolls. And that might be true. But what I was hoping he might say, in addition to that, because normally when you hear presidents say things like that and they're asking the country to sacrifice, they're asking us to sacrifice on the part of making our country better. Kennedy said, ask not what you can do, what your country can do for you, but instead what you can do for your country. I mean, if we're trying to and make the country better by asking for more welders and electricians and engineers and nurse practitioners and maybe even air traffic controllers, and said we have to sacrifice a bit for that, that'd be great. But what I didn't hear, and what troubled me slightly, is that if we're going to ask middle class and working class people to not give as many birthday gifts or Christmas gifts, which might be fine, why not ask billionaires not to, is 3 planes enough? Is 3 yachts enough? Are 4 homes enough? And say that we're going to take that money and pay down our debt. I just don't think the very people, Mr. President, who made you president this second time, working class Americans, don't just ask them to sacrifice.
Wasn't he talking about cheap goods out of China? That's all he was talking about.
No.
Yeah.
He said the price, I'm just quoting, you can play it back. He said they don't need $30. Maybe they'll pay more for 2 or 3. So he's admitting, I believe, that's an acknowledgement the price will go up. But look, I don't even mind it.
I disagree.
I think sacrifice is good for our country. But don't just ask the working guy to do it.
How do you turn that into a class division? When the president
I didn't turn it. He said it. I'm reacting to it.
No, you're turning it. You're saying he's only asking average people and not rich people.
He is, because that's what he did.
No, he's asking everybody.
How many yachts are enough? How many homes are enough?
How relevant is that?
Look, we're not going to touch your dolls, okay? Harold, you are so creepy sometimes. You're almost 50.
It's always good to be back around this.
Oh, my God. Up next, the far left eats their own. AOC gets torched at her own town hall. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.